What if I told you that there's a new tax bill in the works that could change how much you owe or don't owe to the government? In this video, I'm going to be breaking down Trump's massive new tax bill, a bill that aims to be able to eliminate taxes on tips, social security benefits for seniors, overtime pay, while also renewing the 2017 Trump tax cuts before they expire. But there's a catch, right? To make this work, the government has to cut spending elsewhere. And that can probably mean some major changes to Medicare and Medicaid. So let's get right into it. All right. So here's the deal. The tax cut sounds great on paper, but who doesn't want to be able to pay less, right? Everyone would love to be able to save money on taxes, but every dollar cut from taxes is a dollar that needs to be made up somewhere else. So the Congressional Budget Office, also known as CBO, which is a government agency that provides economic and budget analysis, recently examined the numbers and found that to fund these tax cuts, the government may have to cut spending on critical programs like Medicare and Medicaid. So the US government operates on this federal budget, which is essentially a financial plan detailing how much money will be collected primarily through taxes and how much will be spent on various programs, services, and obligations. And right now, that budget is already pretty stretched thin, with significant portions allocated to mandatory spending, which includes Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and other programs. Meanwhile, the new tax plan aims to be able to create some new major tax cuts, which means less revenue flowing into the government. So the question becomes, how will the government be able to make up for this loss of revenue? So the proposed tax cuts will require about $880 billion in spending reductions. Lawmakers have already identified $581 billion in potential cuts, likely from discretionary spending in areas such as federal programs, grants, and administrative expenses. However, that still leaves about $299 billion gap that must be closed. So right now, all the signs are pointing to Medicaid as probably one of the most vulnerable programs for the budget reductions. So currently, here are some Medicaid breakdowns and how it impacts individuals in the United States. So Medicaid is a crucial program that provides health care coverage for low-income Americans, including children, the elderly, and disabled individuals. So here's who it serves. Okay, 80% of children living below the federal poverty line rely on Medicaid. All right, 48% of low-income adults receive Medicaid benefits. 41% of disabled adults ages 19 and 64 depend on Medicaid for essential medical care. And since Medicaid is a joint federal and state program, the federal government provides funding to states to be able to help cover these healthcare costs. And if the federal government reduces its share, states will be forced to be able to make some really difficult decisions. So number one, they would have to increase state taxes to be able to make up for the loss of federal funding. Number two, they'll cut Medicaid eligibility, meaning that fewer people will be able to qualify for coverage. Number three, they would reduce the scope of benefits, such as cutting certain treatments, medications, or hospital services. Four, lower provider payments, which could cause fewer doctors and hospitals to be able to accept Medicaid patients. So who gets hurt the most, right? If Medicaid cuts actually happen, the most at-risk groups include low-income families who depend on Medicaid for healthcare access. It's also going to impact seniors in nursing homes, as the Medicaid funds a significant portion of long-term care. Disabled individuals, many of whom rely on Medicaid for essential medical services and home care. Children, particularly those in low-income households who need regular checkups and vaccinations. And here's the bigger picture as it relates to these tax cuts, right? So Medicaid isn't just a safety net, it also plays a major role in the entire healthcare system. So cuts to Medicaid funding could have ripple effects such as hospital financial strain. So many hospitals, especially those in rural areas, rely on Medicaid reimbursements. Less funding could force hospitals to be able to shut down or reduce services. Higher healthcare costs for everyone. So when uninsured people can't access Medicaid, they often turn to emergency rooms where treatment is even more expensive. and these costs often get passed down to insured patients through higher medical bills. Also, job losses as well. So, healthcare providers that rely on Medicaid funding, like nursing homes and home health agencies, may be forced to cut jobs or reduce wages. All right. So, what are the different parties saying as it relates to this? Right. So, there's a lot of heated debate, as you can imagine, about these cuts. So, here's what each side is arguing. So, the Democrats, they're saying that the tax cuts will benefit the wealthy while forcing cuts to programs that help low-income Americans. Cutting Medicaid would hurt children, the elderly, and disabled individuals. The Republicans are saying that they're not targeting Medicare or Medicaid directly. Instead, they just plan to cut $299 billion by reducing fraud, waste, and abuse within Medicare and Medicaid. So that is pretty much up for debate, and that's what the huge argument is. So Republicans argue that Medicare and Medicaid suffer from fraud and inefficiencies, so people receiving benefits who shouldn't, or administrative mismanagement or billing errors are one of the biggest causes for waste. So for example, some estimates claim that billions of dollars are lost each year due to improper payments or fraudulent claims. And their plan is to be able to tighten the eligibility rules and enforce work requirements for certain Medicaid recipients, such as able-bodied adults under the age of 40. So, does this mean that actual Medicaid gets cut, right? So that really depends on how successful they are at actually reducing waste versus actually reducing the services that comes along with this. And Trump is promising, and he's saying that he was stated saying that, read my lips, we will not cut Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security. What we will do is eliminate fraud and abuse. So here's the big question. Can these fraud reduction measures actually be able to save that $299 billion? Or will the cuts be able to and ultimately impact those essential services, and will that ultimately become inevitable? So as of right now, the bill has not been finalized yet, so we don't have any final details on it, but one thing is clear: if it does get passed, this will probably be one of the largest tax policy shifts in recent history. Also, people are wondering, will Trump be able to backtrack on this, right? So some experts believe that once the full cost of the bill becomes clear, parts of the proposal might end up getting watered down to make it more politically viable. So either way, just expect intense debate on this on the coming months as it relates to this. So let me know what you think. Should taxes on tips, overtime, and Social Security be completely eliminated? Should Medicaid take the hit to be able to fund it? Or should the government find another way to be able to balance the budget? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's discuss. And if you want to be able to stay up to date on this bill, make sure you go ahead, like, subscribe, turn on your notifications so you don't miss my next update. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.